right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The conversation still continues. It's the state of the nation. We're talking about the race to State House, 76 days to go. There's quite a number of topics we're touching on. Now we're talking about the running mates issue. Lavenda Ojala is still with me, political commentator. Joshua Kipto, Speaker, Nandi County Assembly. And Stephen Mule, Member of Parliament, Matungulu, is also here. Keep your views coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Kipto, let me bring you in on this conversation of the running mate choice still. And we saw the other day Kenya Kwanza team saying that now they will allocate more than half of the government to women and persons in youth and persons with disability as well. Is that an attempt to counter the influence of Martha Karua, who happens to be a woman chosen as the deputy president for Azimio? Do you think the gender issue is going to play a key role in the decision 2022 on the 9th of August?
Now, thank you very much. Gender will play a role, and I just wanted to correct this. Kenya Kwanza's choice to say they are going to put 50% or they are going to ensure women, persons with disability and the youth occupy 50% was not as a reaction, but was rather a proactive step. As at the time Kenya Kwanza was launching a running mate, that question came through. Remember previously the deputy president had given a promise that he was considering picking a woman running mate, and in its place I think the proposition was it is still possible to be able to capture that aspiration by even giving more. 50%, no coalition in the history or no party in the history of this republic has ever made such a bold step, because that is a significant amount. Even if you look at our laws envisage a 30% rule, whether gender, whether a person with disability, whether youth, whether it's about business or positioning, and Kenya Kwanza has just gone a step further and make it 50%. Of course, it becomes a counter narrative to what Azimio has been able to do in picking Martha Karua as a running mate. Azimio has made right after picking Martha Karua and have been trying to woo the women folk, or more or less like the other gender, on the basis of having their running mate as a woman. And I think in Kenya Kwanza putting the proposition forward and say, yes, even as we had previously thought about the same, but our proposition is even better. We are now even trying to open the space by ensuring not just cabinet secretaries, not just CASs, but inclusive of top government positions and opportunities, which I think is more significant. This basically brings the gender issue to the table, and I'm happy we are going into an election where every issue, each coalition is trying to undo each other, or we are trying to outdo each other. What can you offer that the public can be able to see your commitment? Look at the issue of gender. In 2013 and 2017, all political formations and parties were only concerned with top-upping. Like everyone was about top-up because the law mandated them to do so. Whether in the county assemblies, whether in the National Assembly, whether in the Senate or in the cabinet, everyone was only seeking to ensure they only achieve the limited threshold that the law gives, which is 30%. But in this particular election, when Azimio comes and says Martha Karua will be their running mate and they give her a docket, then you have Kenya Kwanza coming with a more bolder step and say we are offering 50% of all positions. That makes you see the significant progress we make, and that makes you see both coalitions are alive to the fact that these two particular groups are significant when it comes to votes. Yeah. If you talk about women, they are 52% of the population. So that technically gives them to be the bigger population. If you talk about the young people, up to 67% of this particular republic has young people under 35 years. So both coalitions are alive to that, and I can agree with you that in this particular election, the issue of the youth, the issue of women will be at the center. And this time it will be different. It is not just about tokenism, because the last 10 years we've seen tokenist positioning, where we are thrown or we are given small aspects. We will be given CASs. But when we come to the position where we are saying cabinet secretary, permanent secretary, I think that is a bold move. And I would want to throw the gauntlet to our colleagues at the Azimio end to follow through, not just having one person as a running mate, but let it flow through down the system so that the young people as well as the women can feel part and parcel of this important process.
Yeah. Mule, is this going to be an issue, the gender card? Will it play a role in elections in the 9th of August?
I like how my brother speaker is trying to portray that they are offering women 50+% of their government. In the constitution, we have 22 slots for cabinet secretary. And the most interesting part of it is that I doubt whether these guys know how to do math. He said that they will only give 10 slots to the women, which is not 50% of the 22. Please, look at the lies which are beginning to Kenyans. In Azimio, we are real. We have already picked a woman deputy president, which makes the excitement of women of Kenya to also own this government. There is no single card which is more exciting like the card which has been picked at Azimio of Martha Karua. And I said, Martha brings a lot of respect to the Kenyans and generally to the women of Kenya for our stand and our decisive way of dealing with things. So I believe the issue of gender going forward in this election is very key. And look at the Kenyan women. They are quite excited to associate themselves with the presidency of Honorable Raila Odinga and Martha Karua. So you cannot run away from it. And I can tell you, as I said, politics is a game of numbers.
Yeah.
We are targeting the 52% population of women in this country. And I can assure you that the ticket of Mother will be bringing on board almost 70% of that.
Okay.
We cannot rule out it will be 100%, but 70. If you look on the other side, it's a promise. 50%. We know this gentleman. He can't give a promise. If he didn't give a promise to work with Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta for 10 years, how can he give a promise of giving women 50%?
But Lavenda, is this about the gender or the agenda of the coalition that wants to form government?
The agenda is part of the agenda of the Azimio coalition. And Martha has actually, like I said before, she has actually brought some fire into this thing. We saw how people celebrated across the country. The women were all over excited, even the ones on the other side of the political divide. They celebrated. They thanked Raila Odinga for choosing a female running mate. And as Mheshimiwa here has said, Azimio has already demonstrated that in our government, actually, we are going to be 50-50. So by prevailing upon Kalonzo Musyoka to step down for Martha Karua, I think that was one of the best ways to demonstrate that Azimio will actually look at the gender agenda. So it is part of the agenda in Azimio.
Okay. Yes. Let me bring in Joshua Kipto, and there's another conversation here on the front page of the Standard here. They're saying that dangers in CSs openly backing Raila's bid. They say that legal experts are warning that cabinet secretaries who are campaigning have unwittingly created grounds for a presidential petition should their preferred candidate win. Legally speaking, is this the position, Joshua? Is it from where you stand? Could this open the grounds for
Thank you very much. I think
legal
this
battle?
one goes back to why we were able to legislate our constitution in 2010 and why we designated cabinet secretaries and public servants to be apolitical. And if you look at our constitution and our respective legislations, no politician serves in the cabinet. Number two, which is more important, why do you think
Joshua? We seem to be having a bit of a challenge there with Joshua Kipto. We'll get back to him shortly there. But Mule, let me hear your views on this. The dangers in CSS openly backing Raila's bid. In fact, legal experts are now saying this could be grounds for an election petition should their preferred candidate win.
Basically, we need to separate things. These are Kenyans, and the Constitution gives Kenyans freedom of association, freedom of speech, and freedom of choosing.
Yeah.
And I will look at these great gentlemen working at the CS level in the government of Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta from the perspective of human rights aspect.
Yeah.
They have the right to choose who they want to support. And we cannot box them into a corner because they are CSs. They are Kenyans by right, by birth. And they have the Constitution defending them for the choice of who they need to support. So basically, I don't foresee any legal battle on this because at the end of the day is that August 9th will come, Raila Odinga will be the president, and definitely they will be elected or appointed. They'll come to parliament. They'll be vetted. If there is any Kenya who has an issue because they supported, when they come, let's persuade members of parliament not to pass them in parliament. Yeah. There is a process in this country. And this is why I don't understand why Kenya Kwanza is so agitated that CSs are openly giving out their remarks. We don't want to live in opaqueness in this country. Trevor, you have a choice to choose the path you want to take in this country. And it's a constitutional right. Nobody can tell that right from you.
Yeah.
So basically, what they are doing is that they are exercising their democratic right as Kenyans. And I want to say, it is only bad if they go overboard and try to make work at the government at this level not moving. But I can assure you they are men of integrity. They are able to multitask. And Kenyans are happy with them. If there is any Kenyan who has a problem, he can petition parliament for them to be censored.
Okay.
And I've not seen any petition so far. And I'm sorry, it cannot work now because you are going on recess in another probably a week or so.
Yeah. But Lavender, the perception it creates is that there's a use of state machinery to back their preferred candidate. In fact, right now, police in Bungoma have launched a manhunt for Kimilili legislator Didmas Baraza for allegedly using a vehicle that is
the CDF vehicle
into a campaigning vehicle. But there's a whole issue there of also changing number plates and all that. But the perception it creates is then that there's a state machinery that backs an individual, which should create unfair ground for their opponents, right?
Well, to some extent. Though matters are conflicting here that our learned friends will be in a position to expound better than us. But I can say this, just as Mheshimiwa has mentioned, there's that chapter 18 on the Bill of Rights. In as much as these people are not supposed to openly campaign for their preferred candidates, but that Bill of Rights, the chapter, gives them that freedom of association, freedom to participate in a political process, because even the appointment was a political process. These are people having less than 2 months to the expiry of their term in the offices. They're also trying to secure a new term in office. And again, when you look at the other side of the DP Ruto, he's still a state officer. He's campaigning. He's using his current residence, which is a state property, to do all his political activities. And then let us look at the governors who are aligned to UDA. What do? They campaign using county government resources and vehicles to campaign for their preferred choices. So I think it's on the both sides. Okay. And then I can say there's politics as it is and politics as it ought to be. Yeah. So the state officers are free to participate in the political processes, but I also agree that they should also not be seen out there, because that one is seen as not being neutral as they are required to be. Okay. Yes.
Lavender, now that you're still on the floor, there's another conversation here. Let's Kipto, I think we have Kipto back. Kipto, sorry we lost you earlier on. You were making a point on this issue of CSs openly backing Raila's bid on the front page of the Standard.
Okay, so I was making that point and I said the reason why you find IBC giving timelines within which to resign, if you're to participate in politics, you have to resign. And by virtue that our state officers and the CSS never chose that path, it is completely wrong and it is illegal for them to participate and show open bias. The reason why this is so is because if you look at the critical positions they hold, like Musheru, for example, is in charge of ICT. Our elections are digitized. And if you look at the last 2 presidential petitions, election petition at the Supreme Court, at the heart of the dispute was the issue of the gadgets and the issue of the digitization. So how will you feel if the person in charge outrightly canvasses and say that I'll be out ring fencing the vote of this particular candidate? And this is a person who's supposed to be in charge of the process. It is like IBC waking up today and say we are seeking to ring fence the votes of this particular candidate, and even mention that we support this candidate. So it is wrong, it is illegal, and I think the reason why we legislated against such is because if you look at our yesteryears, under the Kenyatta regimes, the Kanu regimes, as well as under the Kibaki regime, misuse of state resources was a big deal. And look at the hypocrisy. Yesterday they were all over picking up a vehicle by Didmas Baraza. Why then the double standard? If indeed a vehicle of CDF has been impounded, and I know that is the rule of the law, you cannot be able to use a government vehicle and brand it, because that is a public service vehicle. So why then are we applying the law selectively? When it comes to the CSS, they outrightly canvass and they are out there asking for votes. It is an illegality, and I think it's a backward political culture. It should not be of benefit to any political formation. We are not asking for any favor. I don't think Kenya Kwanza deserves any favor, or Azimio deserves any favor. Each candidate has the competency, and that's why we normally do fundraisers. It is good for candidates to go out of their way to seek fundraisers and support from different players without necessarily.
All right, we seem to be having technical challenges with Kipto there. We'll fix that as well and get back to him as he's finishing on this. But let me bring back to you, Lavender. There's a story here on the front page of the Daily Nation still. Nyanza rebellion, they say. There's a silent revolution that is taking root in Raila Odinga's Nyanza backyard, where candidates of fringe parties and those vying as independents have ganged up against his ODM aspirants. You are one of those people who were even running for Homa Bay Women Representative.
Sure.
And there were a lot of complaints in terms of how the primaries were done there.
Yes.
Is this true? Is there a rebellion in the backyard where individuals, independents, are now running against the ODM party?
I wouldn't really call it a rebellion per se, but I would say there were issues in regards to party primaries. I was a victim. I didn't even vote myself. There was a new system which was introduced, the tablets. So our people were not sensitized enough. Another issue was the party introducing another method of election, that only registered party members were to vote. And you and I know that Nyanza is predominantly ODM. So the moment you tell other people that you are not supposed to vote because you are not registered, and you know, down there are people who are not even accessible to these mobile phones. They cannot vote online. So they really felt like their right to vote was denied at the primaries.
But you were an aspirant and you did not vote.
I did not vote, because when I went to the polling station, the voting kits were missing. I tried going around 5 other centers where I come from, that is Suba South. The voting tablets were missing. So I tried raising complaints. No one was really there to attend to. So I think this was the worst party primaries that my party conducted. People complained in 2007 about Justice Richard Kwach, but I think this was the worst, because our people were never given opportunity to vote.
Yeah.
You know, one thing,
Isn't
when you
that
want...
why there's now a rebellion, like what they...
Yes, now they are feeling they should be given the rights to vote people of their choice. Because the party primaries, ordinarily, right now, people will be saying, this person has a party ticket and it is as good as done. But because the party primaries were conducted in that manner, so people are feeling bitter, they were denied the rights to vote, now they want to do it in August 2022.
As a vote, as a protest vote?
I wouldn't say a protest vote, but I would say they want now to exercise their voting rights, which they were denied during party primaries.
Okay.
And I can tell you there was a problem.
Okay.
You know, people don't like coming out and speaking the truth for fear of victimization or maybe other things. But I was a victim, and I can say it was worse. So that is what is happening. People are feeling like they were denied their rights, and they want to do it in August.
Okay.
Yes.
Mule, do you see a possibility of people making a statement and changing the political dynamics going forward? Because some of them feel their rights were denied during the primaries, and this is also a time when now they're the ones making their own decision on the 9th of August.
I don't foresee any impact as such because at the end of the day, first and foremost is that no single political party in this country can get it right on issues of primaries because of the enormity of amount of money required and the infrastructure. And that's why, for us in Wiper, we decided to go negotiated democracy with candidates. And I can assure you that we did have a lot of fallouts. And I'll ask my sister here, going forward, join Wiper and we'll be able not to get into this any in the future. The bottom line is that we need to look at how to empower the IEBC and fund them for a period of time in the next 5 years to make sure that they can be able to conduct proper primaries for political parties. because that gives a dilemma of quite a number of parties and gives some people big problem during primaries. But going forward, and I think quite a number of parties need to borrow what we did in Wiper. Negotiated democracy, it's key. And it worked out very well for us. No fallouts. People never spend a quite colossal amount of money during primaries. There is saving. There is harmony between candidates. You go to the region, you'll find candidates who are supposed to be opposing each other are working together towards the main goal to win the seat. Yeah. And that is part of uniting Kenyans. If there's something which makes Kenyans get divided, it's a politics. And it starts with the party primaries. Having said that, is that we also need to look at how do we empower political parties in this country. And I think the card is already out. Going forward in future, I will not be surprised having only 2 major political parties aligned to Azimio or Kenya Kwanza in this country. And that's where things will zero down, whereby we need to put this country to a clear level of political decency. Yeah. Because once we have that, I can assure you that this country, political temperatures will go down, division will go down, and people will align themselves early enough so that they can be in position to get nominated through the party primaries. Okay. Let me bring up the feedback now. Saying on Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Daybreak. Just bring up the feedback and then see if we can get Kipto as we do closing remarks on these conversations. It's the state of the nation or the race to State House, 76 days to the elections. There's a lot that's going on in the country. That's why we're touching on different subjects as we move. Let's see if we can get also Kipto and see what he's saying. Queen's Pacho says, Tinga had Orengo and Gilu as ministers of land. What did they do and why now? Personalization, weaponization, and politicizing of the land issue will not solve this problem. Even in our villages, we have endless land issues. Okay? Abere Jacob says, land issue is emotive. Ruto confessing that he bought critical land may ignite land conversation on why natives weren't given the opportunity to buy it in shares. Okay? Bobo Tieno Wino says, Honorable Mule and Lavender should know that no politician is clean in Kenya. Matters of land implicates politicians from both political divide. The speaker is tearing them apart. Okay? Remy Butia says, anyone wishing away Gachagua forgets that he is a strong mobilizer and has the ear of the struggling Kikuyu hustlers who have been backing DP Ruto over his plans to address economic grievances. August election is about the economy. Engineer Lazaro says, applaud the Kamba MPs for putting country forward by their decision to shelve personal ambitions and unite in calling for Honorable Kalonzo to work with other Kenyans within the Azimio One Kenya Alliance. Okay? Olum Justice says, Honorable Kalonzo's return to Azimio shifts the scale totally to Azimio La Umoja One Kenya's favor. On the flip side, his indecisive nature worries his support base. He should be reminded that kingpins rarely engage reverse gear. Okay? Saiton King says, why has this just become an issue this year and never was in 2017? These CSs were campaigning for Ruto in 2017 and no one had an issue with this. All right? All right, let's see if we can we have Kipto back, or let's have Kipto. Kipto, you are making a point on this issue of CSs also as you make your closing remarks on whether this election is going to have anything different, or are Kenyans still just going to vote the same way they always do?
They were campaigning under Ruto, and that is why we need to be a country that respects the laws, irrespective of who is in power. So what is important, as I had made the point, I say it is an illegality, and that is why I had made the simple proposition of why we had timelines for state officers and public officers to resign. You cannot be able to serve two particular roles. Importantly, it is also dependent on the specific task you are holding. You can imagine the CS Interior. Interior will be in charge of security and logistics. You have the ICT Cabinet Secretary. IBC will be relying on Communication Authority, will rely on ICT Ministry on issues of result transmission and what have you. And that has been a serious emotive issue every time we have elections, in 2017 as well as in 2013. Elections are won and lost based on perception and confidence in the process. So that is my proposition, and I think it is important important for posterity, not just for the purposes of this election, but for posterity. We need to set up an election culture that is sustainable, where in this case will be, if you are in a public office, perform your duties diligently. Tomorrow you may not be in the same office. Someone else will sit there and you'll be on the receiving end of skewed nature of use of public resources.
All right, then you can make your closing remarks also as well right now.
Now, my closing remarks would be, I think as a country, this is an important election in terms of issues and agenda. What I'm very excited about is that for the first time, we're having a presidential election that has two formations with clear mandates. Each of them is trying to sell an agenda. You have our colleagues at Azimio selling the unity card and saying that they want to unite the country. And at the same time, you find them also referring to the issue of constitutionalism. That's why I think they would put in Martha. And then you have on the other bit where I personally support, that is the Kenya Kwanza coalition, you find us making economy the issue, because this is an election about the economy. The desperation of the people, the nature of distress that people are undergoing, both at the county and the national level, calls for a government that is willing to be able to change the conversation. More importantly, you find that we are going into an election where specific propositions on policy are being given to the table. And I think it is an exciting time for a Kenyan voter to be able to measure. It is time to choose. Are you going to choose continuity or the status quo, or are you going to choose newness? Are you going to choose a new message and practicability? More importantly, a government that seeks to put the people at the center of the governance process. And that is what these elections are all about. I would wish to urge both at the county and the national level that we have peaceful elections. Let us compete on ideas. Let us argue. Let us go back forth. But at the end of the day, remember that we are one country, we are one people. In 3 months, this one will be over, and we'll have a country to still have, and we should be keen to have propositions and solutions to our everyday problem. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Kipto. Mule, closing remarks.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Kenyans for being peaceful so far, and we urge them going forward, we remain united as a country and look forward for the change. And I can assure you that that change belongs with the Azimio team, because we have our opponents on the other side who want to continue occupying office, even after absconding duty. It is such an immoral way of looking at Kenyans, whereby somebody is seeking presidency, yet he's sitting in the same office, and he has not been able to show Kenyans what change is. So as we are looking forward, we are looking at scenarios of what Kenyans want for this year. And Kenyans are looking forward, whereby we look at the lowering the cost of living, making sure that we are able to afford school fees for our kids in the country. We are looking at a united Kenya. We are looking on closing down all the corrupt avenues within the country, looking forward for bringing more investors in the country so that we can create employment for our unemployed youth, looking forward to make sure that the country is cohesive and country works together. And the only agenda on the table is, can we get that change in Kenya Kwanza? No, and emphatic no. We can only get that change from Azimio team, led by Honorable Raila Odinga, Deputy President Martha Karua, designate, and Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, who is bringing a lot of experience on how to manage the country. And as Raila wishes for him to be his coordinator of government, you can be assured of a super government, not just a government for Kenyans.
Lavenda, closing remarks, very briefly.
We have said almost everything. I'm just urging fellow Kenyans to make informed choices come August 2022. Let us not be bought by cheap propaganda. We are able to differentiate between genuine team and those ones who are not genuine. So I urge fellow Kenyans to be peaceful. Let us not fight over elections, because politics will come and go, but we remain brothers and sisters.
All right.
Otherwise, thank you very much.
All right, that's how we leave it for now. Lavenda Ojala, political commentator, Joshua Kipto, Speaker, Nandi County Assembly, and Stephen Mule, Member of Parliament of Tungulu. We're taking a quick break here on Daybreak. When we come back, we're talking about menstrual hygiene with Dr. Angela Anzetse. That in just a bit.